Hello, everyone. My name is Emily with the Rising Stars Football Academy, and welcome back to another installment of Hashtag Feature Friday, a segment dedicated to featuring different student athletes and coaches in their experiences with our camps and combines. Now, today we are joined by Shippensburg University assistant coach Tony Johnson. Coach Johnson is in his 15th season as an assistant coach and contributes to special teams work, but primarily provides instruction to the defensive backs. He also played collegiate football at Shippensburg, where he played in all 44 games during his career, totaling 180 tackles, 31 pass breakups, 6 interceptions, and 8 block kicks. He's been a great coach at the Rising Stars Football Academy camps and combines. We appreciate him taking the time to speak with us. Thanks for joining us, Tony. How's it going?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing great. So I'd like to start off talking about how you got involved in football and how you eventually decided on Shippensburg to play your collegiate football. So what aspects about the school really stood out to you?
Let's see here. Football for me has been like a family tradition. When I very first got out of high school, I was at a actually signed a letter of intent for a Division 1 school, and then academics ended up falling into a big part of that, which then ended up having me have to leave that school, and which then Shippensburg, talking to Coach Reese, he talked to me a lot, and he was really big on family and installment and the atmosphere and what they wanted to change. That kind of was the big tipping point for me going from there to Division 2. It was one of those, and I was like, it's close to home, and I like it, and that's where it's been at since then.
And Shippensburg is a pretty big powerhouse Division 2 school. So how is that competitive atmosphere like? And what's it like competing and going against some of the best guys in the state?
The thing that makes it unique about actual Shippensburg and that Pennsylvania State Conference is we're one of the largest in the country. And that brings a lot of competitiveness where you have almost 18 actual schools with two different conferences that are going against each other. So you have a wide variety of competition. You get a lot of Division 2 players that were like in the same situation with me where academics did end up falling through, that were Division 1 players, or Division 1 players that end up transferring down and ended up being close to home because of some type of reason. And it puts that real steep competitive day in, day out practices, sometimes even feel like games when you're that kind of competitive.
Now, you've played in all 44 games during your career, which, congratulations, that's pretty impressive. So, how were you able to stay consistent and also healthy during your time there? Like, how much did you prioritize your recovery and making sure that your body's ready to go every single week?
I would say a little luck, a little luck with that. You can't ever take luck away. Growing up, I really didn't understand about recovery until I got to college. And then I still didn't take it serious because it was just young and you were there. But listening to them, I kind of realized I was doing it without listening and doing it the way they wanted, where it was when it was time, it was always eating the right stuff, honestly, getting enough sleep sometimes. And then it was constantly doing the extra things where the stretching. Nowadays, it's we have our players at the university doing yoga. We have them doing all these other types of stretchings that go on. But obviously, back way when I played, yoga wasn't the thing. But it was always about us doing stretching and different techniques and things like that.
And during your time at Shippensburg, you actually played alongside Ron Johnson, who, if you guys are watching, Tony and Ron are actually related. So, what was it like playing alongside family?
It was fun. Me and Ron had the luxury of growing up in Newark, and we never really got to go head and head at each other in high school, but we knew and we followed up with each other with track and basketball. And then I'm older than Ron, so when it came time, it was pretty big on me trying to say, hey, I want to really get my cousin. I was pushing there with Coach Spence, and we ended up getting Ron. And it was just one of those real good things because then now it's like you already build that family atmosphere as a football player, but then to actually have your family with you, it just made it even more like I could count on him and he could count on me. And we were on the same side a lot of the times anyway. It just made it fun.
Mhm.
Family enjoyed it. Everybody enjoyed that whole mix and chemistry. And then it kind of melted its way down into the team as well defensively. Like it just made us all a big cohesive unit.
And you and Ron actually helped out with different football camps during your senior year at Shippensburg. So, why were you interested in giving back to the community and volunteering at those kinds of camps?
Growing up, there wasn't many camps for us growing up that you could go to. in which I found that more interesting. And our head coach at the time, Coach Reese, knew the guy, and he was like, "Hey, you want to do this? You'll get to help out. You get the network. You get to do that kind of stuff to help you get to the next level of what you want to do." And then you get to see the multiple amount of kids that came. The camp that stuck out, we had kids that we would have to pick up at airplanes that came from Canada, came from France, and they were here for a whole week at Shippensburg University. And playing with other kids that came the whole way from, I think we had kids from the whole way down to Florida or things like that. It was neat to see that atmosphere as a college player. The kids looked at you. NFL players, you're seeing them and relating, and you just got to see all the knowledge being passed. And that kind of drew me in a whole lot. In which then I remember me saying to Ron, like, "Yeah, you got to do this. I need you to do this with me." In the next summer, and then the next summer after that, he was with me. And I remember us sitting there talking about, this is what we should do when we get done. When we get older, it'd be real cool if we had a camp and we can actually bring it to people and show them more.
And what would you say is like one lesson or piece of inspirational advice that you were able to take from those experiences working at those types of football camps?
You have to be willing to adjust and compete constantly. Just because you may be great at whatever level you are, if you accept complacence, then you won't be able to achieve your maximum greatness. And that's what the one coach, I remember that guy saying it so many times to those players, because those young guys that were at those camps were pretty darn good. And then you had NFL players saying, "Hey, man, when you go to college, you're going to have same guys that are as good as you. And if you stay at the same level that you are in high school, you'll never make it to wherever your goal that you want to achieve is, or give yourself that best chance to get there." So that's always been my biggest hone on that part. And that's even the same way of like my style of coaching. The players that have me now since Ron has started camp, they'll tell you the one thing they always know is Coach Tony's around. They can tell because the intensity is there.
You've spent a large portion of your life at Shippensburg and working for Shippensburg. So, what prompted you to return and help coach?
Our head coach called me up and was saying, "Hey, what are you up to?" He was like, "We really would like you to come back. We want you to help us get ourselves back on track. We need some things. Your coach, Coach Mack, always talks about how you guys did." And pretty much it was one of those things, it felt like home. It is home. And that was like, when you have a family member saying, "We miss you, we want you back," even though you're done, it just makes it feel better. It's like when you in college and you go away and it's now Thanksgiving break and you get home and your family's all happy and that they're happy to see you. That's what it felt like. And that's what made me end up coming back to Ship, where it was like, you know what? This is my family no matter what. And it's funny now because the coaches that I work with are the same coaches that were my coaches then. You see that whole compatible family atmosphere. So
And what would you say is your favorite part about coaching?
development. It's like that part where you see something and you see growth when another person can't see it. But when you actually get to witness that aha moment, like when you're trying to show them a drill, and then all of a sudden in a game or a scrimmage, the drill that you just did, they do it and it masters and it works out to success. And you see it in their eye, that aha, or that film session. I think that's the biggest thing that you want, is kind of that development of, if you put the time in, success does happen. When you do put the time in, you have to understand that there will be failure at some point, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you have to work harder to achieve.
And as a coach, what was one adjustment that you guys had to make during the pandemic when your season was halted?
You get used to being in person, and everybody knows that. You get used to that, but now when we have to have our team meetings, and now we have Zoom like we're doing now, where it's 37 guys on a Zoom meeting, and we're trying to go over film, and you have to coming up with newer ways to do that. And when it came to being able to work out, the thing that makes football unique is that it's that bondness, that you get to work with all your teammates and your fellow brothers and do those things. And now with that pandemic that happened, that large group becomes a very smaller, minute group. And now they're not all one big, they're small pods. And that you have to be able to still get them to believe and make it work cohesively at some point. That's why, like right now, we're starting spring football. The players are loving it. They're loving being out there and everybody being together at one time.
Now, because of your extended coaching experience and working with coaches at not only the Division 2 level, but also 1 and 3, what are some of the things that you've taken away working with a variety of high quality coaches?
Even from high school the whole way to Division 1, the quality of coaches and the ones that were really excel, the things that I learned from them and honestly talk to them about is that you just got to keep learning and you got to keep adapting. And just because it worked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it may not work. That doesn't mean you throw it away. You still try to keep picking at it and keep coming up with more and altering it by just a little. Like I sit there and think about Yurcich, who's now the offensive coordinator for Penn State. We would sit around and do our rides to games, and I could watch him go through scripts, and then he would just take paper and constantly draw plays up that he just made up on the way to the game and use them, and they would work. He's like, I told you it would work. And you're like, wow, you literally just made that up. So that's what I really learned and took from guys like that.
And I'd like to kind of transition to your involvement with the Rising Stars Football Academy. So, how long have you been coaching at our camps and combines, and what are some of the positions that you help out with?
When you interview Coach Ron, he'll tell you it was me and him from day one. And I remember to this day the first camp me and him did together, the very first camp, and we were making the food, and it was me and him, and we were screaming and yelling at kids like they were in college. At camp now, the positions that I coach them all really. Like I'll do the running backs, I'll do the defensive backs. When we do some type of special teams, if it's punting or kicking, or if it's returns, things like that, I'll do those. If for some reason I have to fill in, it's quarterbacks because I know that one. And somehow I got to learn some stuff on even doing some lineman stuff. So I even pretty much coach them all when it's needed, wherever it's at. And that's offense and defense. But primarily, Ron always says, you got the running backs and you got the DBs. And then I'm like, all right. And he's like, but don't get too happy in that position right now. And I'm like, okay.
You're going to be moving around all throughout the day, so it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
So, what are your thoughts on the combines and how they help to prepare our student athletes for our camps?
I think the combines are a good new piece that was added in. You know, when you look at something online or you look at a brochure, you don't really ever get a chance to truly understand what you're getting into till you get there. And the luxury of having a combine or a mini camp, a player can get to see just a glimpse of some of the things that they'll get for those 4 or 5 days of camp. You also, even from there, you're still learning at these mini camps. If it's speed and agility, if it's actual drills and ball placement and hands, everything is still a learning process. So the combine gives you even that extra more, like I say, that you have to know and learn and do. Now you're able to do it without really having the indulgence of the camp, but also giving you a small sample of like what you're getting. Because most of the times when we do the combines, it's the coaches that are always at the camps. So you'll already have a familiar face to go with when you come to the camp.
And to kind of conclude this little interview here, we like to end on maybe an inspirational note or some piece of advice. So, what's one piece of advice that you'd like to share with any junior high or maybe high school football player?
I think it's a common theme that I always tell everybody is when you're in high school and you're in junior high, what you should always be doing is finding a position, crafting it, but also being willing to expand and try other things. The more that you give yourself a chance of opportunity, the better you are of being successful somewhere else.
Mhm.
If you are just a running back and you live and die by a running back and you don't know any other position, now when it comes time to it, maybe that school you really want to doesn't need a running back. Now, that one place you were sitting on, now you can't get in. But if you give yourself that chance to be somewhere else, and hey, I do play defense, or hey, I can return punts, now you still open up doors to other places. So, the big thing I tell our players at the camps and even at the university is do not limit yourself. You know, you can be your worst critic, you could be your worst adversary, you could be anything that's going to hold you back, you could be the worst at. but you should also open your mind and give yourself a chance. There's nothing wrong with trying something more. And that's pretty much what I try to tell the players. And that's what I kind of live by. Hey, if I get a chance to learn, I want to learn as much as I can.
Well, I'd like to thank you for speaking with me today and sharing your experience with all of our viewers. I think our student athletes and everyone watching is going to take a lot from this video and maybe apply some of the concepts in their own life. So appreciate your time and thanks so much.
Hey, no problem. I thank you and can't wait to see you in person.
I know, I know. This is, I mean, this will have to do, but I can't wait to see you in the summer. All right. Thanks again.